Welcome back once again to the Imaginary Gallery. It is TJ, your host, and tonight is dedicated to viewer questions. One of them I'll start with is from Step Chicklin, and I'll read the question. I have a question if that's okay. Well, of course it's okay. We know that they never made it out of childhood and never became mentally fully functional, became somebody, a somebody with empathy. Empathy must be most of what makes up any real personality. They wear a mask, and they mirror us. Do they metamorphosize into the other, the victim, with their character traits? So if I observed my ex-narcissist from a safe distance, would I be observing someone with a different personality, unrecognizable from the one I once knew? I'd be very interested in your answer. No, these people do not metamorphosize into the other target or victim. They simply mirror their new target. It's interesting and disgusting when, for example, you were involved with the creature and the creature was strangely interested in many, if not all, of the things you were interested in. Now, of course, if you do a closer examination, it's a very superficial interest. They basically adapt the characteristics of their current target, plus they adapt language styles. Like if you're an LOL person, well, they're going to start using LOLs in their messages. Even if they never did before, they're wearing a mask, and it's a superficial mask. That's one of the reasons why I think it's so easy for them to simply toss it all aside once a new target steps into place. Because they weren't really involved in the first one, which may be you, let's say, but they seem to be, because that's all you have to go on, their daily interactions. So if they act like they're interested in the things you are, and then all of a sudden it's just overhauled and now they're doing something different, well, because they've got a new target, and they're trying to fit in with it. It's funny because sometimes you'll be with somebody who says they can't stand running. Running is horrible, and so you don't ever run with them. But then months later, you notice they're on social media bragging about how, oh, tonight I'm going to go running for 3 miles or something, and you read it and think, person doesn't like to run? What? It's fake. It's an act, designed and tailor-made for the target of the moment. So you were once the target of the moment, and you thought it was so great that you found this person who had so many interests in common with yours, but they were fake. So, back to the question. If you do observe your ex-creature from a safe distance, you'll simply be seeing an actor who's playing a different role, and you probably won't recognize it, because the new role is tailor-made for the new target, just like it was for you. And you, of course, don't expect when you meet a person to think that they're tailoring their entire personality to match up with yours. You just think you met a person who has like-minded ideas. With these creatures, that's not the case. And they don't have the same ideas, they just pretend to. Chances are you will see this person maybe wearing a whole new look. They tend to do that as well. Like if you're dating him, and it's a boy, let's say, and he's clean-cut, shaven, shaved hair, real nice and prim and proper cut, and then when it's all over, all of a sudden it's got long hippie-type hair, stubble and beard everywhere, and completely different look. It's because it's assuming a new role. With you, it was one role, now it's another. These are like empty shells, void of any kind of real personality. They simply morph into the target of the day. And sometimes they will morph into several targets at the same time. And sometimes there's a conflict of interest, because you'll be with the person on a regular basis. You'll notice their regular role they play for you. But then you'll go into a different circumstance, different situation, and all of a sudden the person will start speaking using different type language, different expressions, profanities that you normally don't ever hear. It can be shocking because you'll think, wait a second, who are you? Because they're playing multiple roles, and they evidently feel comfortable enough with you that they can show you this, but they really can't explain it. They just pass it off as some superficial excuse. It's strange because there isn't really a real person there. You think you met a real person because you experienced what you experienced with the person, and it seemed real, and it was consistent day after day. Fact is, though, it was fake, and it was designed to appeal to you. And once you're no longer needed, all that's abandoned, and now it's doing it with somebody else. If you look at it from afar, it's going to look different, act different, but just keep in mind, underneath all of it, it's still an empty shell. There's nothing in it. It is simply void, and it assumes the role of whomever it's targeting for the moment. The next question comes from the same viewer, named Step Chicklin. Do you mind receiving more? No. It's firstly, just out of curiosity, may I ask which came first for you, the BA, psychology, or your encounters with the narcissists? Because I wonder if the psychologists, experts in the field, really know what to make of these Fockers. Martha Focker. From what I've heard online, whenever they try to figure them out or break them down in therapy, the narc just throws the bowl back and cackles in their face. The story goes that narcs only target empaths. Easier to digest, and empaths are supposed to be particularly susceptible to flattery and charm, emotionally gullible, more than the rest of us. Yet you don't strike me as an empath, but you've been caught several times by them. Is this because, as I believe, we are living in a narcissistic society now, and it's getting harder to tell apart the pathological narc from the narc-like traits that many normal people also display, such as triangulation, ghosting, entitlement, hypersensitivity, cliques of flying monkeys, etc.? Incidentally, I'm in the UK. I suppose you're in the US somewhere? So let's start at the top. The BA degree occurred simultaneously with the experiences with the Cluster B monsters. I was finding myself studying such things that didn't have labels at that point. They were discussions of communication in a communication class, psychology classes, and I would notice specific traits mentioned that fit with the very types of creatures I'd encountered, but it wasn't the way it is now, where you can actually label everything with specific terms that aren't necessarily psychological terms, but they are valid terms such as hoovering and idealization and all that. It's sickening that they all seem to follow the same patterns. I learned a lot more after the degree than I did in any classes that I took at that time. And as far as psychologists, the experts in the field, I've found that many times these narcopathic fools like to tap into the psychological professionals. They will voluntarily seek therapy, for example, but it's not for the reason most people do. It's so they can learn and pick up on specific terms. I've known a few of these Cluster B creatures who learn the lingo. They learn to project what they're doing onto their targets. And they learn the word projection as well. But when you are genuinely noticing or uncovering a scandal or a scam, and you're pointing it out to them, part of their denial tactics would be to say, oh, you're projecting. You must be doing what you think I'm doing. So they try to become more savvy and sophisticated. The fact of the matter remains is, no, I'm simply noticing specific behaviors, and they're leading me to believe certain things and coming to certain conclusions. I'm simply asking, but they will use the psychological terms as if they are the ones in control, and as if you're the one who's got the problem. Typical. But yes, if you put them in a room with a therapist and you try to break them down, it doesn't necessarily work. They do throw the ball back because they have already learned many of the terms, and they know how to pretend to be the target. In fact, I think a lot of times what they do is they'll tell their stories and they'll switch roles around. So if the narcissist monster was dating his or her ex prior to you and lied to the ex, cheated on the ex, and so on, when you step forward and act kind of shy because something similar was done to you, these people will switch roles and say, oh, I know exactly what you're going through with your mirroring. And they will basically switch the roles and say, oh yes, my ex did that to me. But really what they're telling you is what they did to their ex. But they've got to mirror you. They're going to switch the roles around. And it's interesting when they do this because a lot of times you can listen to their claims and then ask questions. A lot of times you'll find yourselves at dead ends because they're fake. They're phony. They're pretending. It's like the story doesn't really have an ending because they don't have a clue. They just know how to recreate and switch roles around, but they don't really know how to follow through with it. Plus, they're not a real person, so they're not going to tell you that, oh, I found out my ex did this, this, and this, and as a result, it ended. Well, they might tell you that, but if you talk to the ex, chances are the creature you're dealing with is the perpetrator of the problems. But of course they won't tell you that. They can't. They wouldn't expect to have a second date if they told you that, oh yes, my ex, oh, I really led her astray. I pretended to be in love with her and I was dating her family, and when she found out, she dumped me. You won't hear stories like that. At most, you'll hear them switch it around and say, I found out that my ex was seducing my family, and da-da-da. Fake. Probe, ask questions, push it further to see what they did about it and how it ended. A lot of times you'll be left with something hanging in the air that doesn't really sound like it completed anything because they're the ones who perpetrated the problem. As far as these creatures targeting empaths, I think that's an easy target for them because the empath cares. It can empathize with others, understand, and try not to hurt others, and that's like the complete opposite of these creatures. But of course they'll pretend to be the same way, and as far as flattery and charm, I think that anybody, whatever label they are, will be susceptible to that and will enjoy that, even though it seems kind of fake. Like I would notice with a few of them, I would like meet them once or twice and haven't even begun to discuss things that really make me who I am. I would just be like doing superficial stuff. After a few encounters, I'd be hearing, oh, you're the most wonderful person ever. Oh, I think I'm falling in love. And I think, you haven't seen anything. It's fake. It's forced. Because there's nothing there yet that's even been revealed for them to cling on to. It's just superficial. But they're in a hurry a lot of times. They notice you may have a few of the things they want to take advantage of, so they're going to skip all the getting to know you part and just act like, well, I can't help it, I feel this way. I'm just in love with you. I test a few of them. It's like, oh, really, you're in love? Really? Love? Tell me then. In 1,000 words, what are you in love with? Tell me. And they can't really do it. They can give you superficial, like,
I love your hair color. I love the fact that you have a car.
I love your smile.
Oh, I love that you're funny.
generic, retarded things that don't really tell you anything. Plus, I'd think, really, you love that I'm passionate about music. How exactly does that benefit you? And it doesn't. They're just grasping at straws, whatever they can find about you that basically is what they know about you. So if you talk about horses all day, they're going to say, I love how you're so passionate about horses. Yet they have nothing to say about horses. So it's like, oh, really? You're in love with me because of that? How does that benefit you? And then, of course, you'll be told, oh, you're being too cynical. You're being too this or too that. Oh, just accept the fact I feel this way. And like, okay. As far as me not striking you as an empath, I'm partial empath. At the same time, I've learned to sweep a lot of that empath stuff under the rug when dealing with creatures like this, which is different from what I've ever experienced before, because normally you are who you are, no matter what happens. When you find yourself dealing with a creature like this, it's almost like you have to do what they do and compartmentalize your empathy and put it off to the side, accept what you're really dealing with. To say, look, I'm not doing anybody any favors by being honest with this person and telling this person how I really feel and how I was really hurt in this situation, because all this person's going to do is use that information to try to recreate the whole situation, create worse of a horror fest. You have to learn to keep that to yourself, shove it aside, not give in to their stupid pity play games when, for example, they're lying to you daily and you're telling them, hey, stop lying, and they're claiming they're not lying, but they clearly are. They will try to play their pity games of,
I can't believe I'm in love with you and you think I'm lying to you.
Well, the fact is they are. You have to toss aside your empathy and not worry about, oh my goodness, maybe I'm wrong, I'm hurting this person's feelings. No, you're not. They're playing a game. You disprove their stories. You find out that they're lies. You're right for believing this. You're not helping yourself if you continue to be open and honest, which is why with more than a few of these, I used the counter-manipulation tactic. When they figured it out and found out that I was completely being dishonest, I would just say, well, I couldn't help but notice that you lied about A, B, C, D, E, so I figured that's the language you understand, so I thought I'd speak to you in that language. I'm adjusting my levels to match yours. And of course they don't want to hear that, they don't like that, but tough. You have to abandon some of your empathy because it's only going to hurt you with these people. It will be used against you. And it's kind of difficult at first, but after having practice, you get used to it, realizing that this person is a fake. If I misrepresent something to them, well, I'm speaking to them in the language they understand. When they find out the truth, then I can say, well, see how that feels? You did that to me? Well, how do you like that? But of course that doesn't work. Then they'll just do it to you worse and get you back because you dared to get them, but they're sick and they are someone you need to have no contact with. But as far as traits, narc-like traits, normal people have some, but I think the difference is these traits are used for like a fake act with these narcissistic monsters. They are doing this stuff to hurt you, to betray you. When they're doing all that, they're not a normal person. They are a person who is trying to take advantage of you, trying to hurt you, and listening to your little stories when you tell about how hurt you were with your last one when they did this or that to you. Well, they're building up a scenario in their head where they can recreate that for you just to show you, which, again, is totally sick. Face it. Step back. They are the predator. They are coming into your space, pretending to be like you, to get you to loosen up and soften up so they can take advantage of things, so they can learn every secret about you and not tell you any secrets about themselves that are true, but make you think that they're just like you. And they're doing all this, and then when you eventually figure out they're fake, maybe fight back or stand up to them and say, look, I don't think we should do this anymore. You're lying about everything. They are going to punish you then, which is unbelievable. As if they have the right to deceive you, and you have no room to fight back or counter them. And I'm thinking, who do you think you are? It's their sense of entitlement. They think that they are free to be fraudulent against you, and if you dare stand up for yourself, well, then you're going to have to pay for that. And it's just sickening. It's not fair. It's not a level playing field. They make the rules as they go. They change those rules, and they don't bother to tell you. They're playing this game by their own set of rules, expecting you to play by the normal social rules. They're breaking every single one of them, and then when you find out later,
I didn't have to follow the rules. I didn't have to tell you the truth because of whatever, and
they're sick. No contact ever again. And as far as the last part, yes, I am in the USA somewhere. The UK I have not been to. I've wanted to go. Bananarama are from there.
I am the narcopath. And I'm supposed to be giving you some more confessions tonight.
if you remember when we first met, how we talked a lot via email. I know when I read your old emails, I saved them, by the way. Oh, but not for sentimental reasons. I saved them because you seem to be like a real person, which I know that I ain't. I'm just boobs and heels. I kept your emails. I studied them. And in my What's Your Target, I tried to quote several of them, which met with mixed results. I guess I don't get where you come up with some of the stuff you say, but regardless, I saved all of your old emails. Tried to use the lines you used to pass myself off as a real person to some of my other targets, and it didn't always work. That's because they were stupid, though. It's just because they're dumb. Nothing to do with me.
During our relationship, I could never have told you any of this. I'm sure you noticed how I swept you off your feet so quickly. I know that it seemed too good to be true. Well, duh, it was. But I was going to ride it out for as long as I could. In case you don't recall, I went along with anything and everything you did.
Hi. Yes, could you please give me instructions on how to reach the dark web? The person whose house I'm staying at would love to order some prostitutes, some illegal drugs, some children to make love to. I want the number to be traceable, though. Not to make the transaction, but please teach me how I can do this, because he really needs to have this happen to him. Oh, no, he doesn't know anything about it, but it's kind of like a going-away present for him. I'll explain later. Yes. You can call me back. My phone number is 555-6666. You got it. Well, show TJ. He's not going to keep me in here forever. I'm going to bring the children in here from Pizzagate. He can deal with it. He can deal with the police. And I'll be out of here. Yeah!